You think you won, Rick? This isn't over.
I sent my birthday invitations first. 2 weeks later, my brother Dave announced his barbecue party on the same day naturally. Not a single person from my family came to my birthday. Not even my wife Amanda or our daughter Krista. They decided to take a spontaneous vacation together instead. So there I was, Rick Dwyer, 41 years old, sitting alone in my kitchen with a store-bought chocolate cake and 41 candles that seemed to mock me with their cheerful flames. The silence was deafening, broken only by the hum of our ancient refrigerator and the distant sound of laughter from Dave's backyard 3 blocks away. "Happy birthday to me," I muttered, cutting myself a slice. The cake was dry, like everything else in my life lately. My phone buzzed. Amanda's name flashed on the screen. "Rick, you need to call me. It's urgent." Her voice was tight, strained in a way I'd never heard before. "What's wrong? Are you and Krista okay?" We're at the hospital, both of us. We need to talk." The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my stomach dropping faster than a lead balloon. Hospital? Both of them? I grabbed my keys and drove the 40 minutes to the resort town where they had decided to spend my birthday weekend. The emergency room was buzzing with typical Saturday night chaos. Drunk college kids, crying babies, and the general misery that comes with fluorescent lighting and antiseptic smells. I found them in adjacent beds in the urgent care wing. Amanda looked pale, avoiding my eyes. Krista, our 22-year-old princess, was crying into a tissue. "What happened?" I asked, pulling up a plastic chair that had seen better decades. Amanda cleared her throat. We both contracted something, an infection. Food poisoning? Not exactly. She finally met my eyes, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Shame. Real, deep shame. "It's sexually transmitted." The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I looked from Amanda to Krista, my brain struggling to process what I was hearing. "Both of you?" Krista sobbed harder. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I didn't mean for this to happen. It was just supposed to be fun, you know? Mom said—" "Krista, don't." Amanda's voice was sharp. "Mom said what?" I asked, my voice deadly quiet. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Finally, Amanda spoke. "I've been seeing someone. Felix Grant. Dr. Grant from the dermatology clinic. And Krista. She met someone at the resort. We both made mistakes." Dr. Felix Grant. I knew that name. 45, divorced, drove a cherry red Porsche, and thought he was God's gift to middle-aged women. He'd treated a mole on my back last year, spent the entire appointment talking about his golf game and expensive wine collection. "So let me get this straight," I said, my voice eerily calm. "While I was sitting alone on my birthday eating cake by myself, you two were off having unprotected sex with strangers and managed to catch the same STD? "It's not that simple," Amanda started. "It's exactly that simple." I stood up, my chair scraping against the linoleum. "How long?" "Rick?" "How long, Amanda?" 6 months. 6 months. While I'd been working 60-hour weeks at my hardware store trying to keep us afloat financially, she'd been playing doctor with the actual doctor. "And you, Krista? What about Evan? Your husband of 8 months?" She couldn't even look at me. "He doesn't know yet." "Well, he's about to." I pulled out my phone. "Dad, please. No, I'm done with the lies." I dialed Evan's number. He picked up on the second ring. "Rick, how's the birthday celebration going?" "Evan, you need to sit down. We need to talk." 20 minutes later, Evan arrived at the hospital looking like he had been hit by a truck. He was a good kid, 25, worked in IT, treated my daughter like a queen even when she didn't deserve it. The conversation was brutal. Krista cried. Amanda tried to play mediator, and Evan just sat there in stunned silence. "So what now?" Evan asked finally. I looked around at this pathetic tableau, my cheating wife, my selfish daughter, and my devastated son-in-law. "Now you both get treated, and then we figure out how to clean up this mess." I stood up again. "The medical bills will be sent to you, Amanda. Both of you made adult choices. You can handle adult consequences. Rick, we can't afford—" "You should have thought of that before you decided to play vacation roulette with your reproductive health." I walked toward the exit, then turned back. "Oh, and Amanda, don't bother coming home tonight, or any night for that matter. We'll talk through lawyers." The drive home was a blur. I kept thinking about all the signs I'd missed. The late nights Amanda claimed were work meetings. The new lingerie I'd never seen her wear. The way she'd started going to the gym religiously and buying expensive makeup. Back in my kitchen, the birthday cake sat untouched except for my single slice. 41 candles had burned down to stubs, wax pooling on the frosting like tears. I cut another piece and took a bite, still dry. My phone rang. Evan. Rick, can we meet tomorrow? I think we need to talk more. About everything. Sure, kid. Come by the store around 10. After I hung up, I sat in the silence of my empty house and made a decision. For 20 years, I'd been the accommodating husband, the pushover who always took the high road. I'd let Dave overshadow me at every family gathering, let Amanda make all the social decisions, let Krista treat me like an ATM with legs. Well, that Rick was done. Time for them to meet the new version. I wiped cake frosting from my fingers and smiled for the first time in hours. It wasn't a nice smile. Evan showed up at my hardware store the next morning looking like he hadn't slept. My store, Dwyer's Hardware, had been in my family for 30 years. My dad started it, and I'd been running it since he retired. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and I knew every bolt, screw, and power tool in the place. Coffee? I offered, pouring from the ancient machine I kept behind the counter. Thanks. He took the mug with shaking hands. I confronted Krista last night. How'd that go? About as well as you'd expect. Lots of crying. Lots of, it didn't mean anything. Lots of blaming the booze. He took a sip and grimaced. This coffee is terrible. Yeah, I know. So, what's your plan? Evan was quiet for a moment, staring into his mug like it held the answers to life's mysteries. I don't know. I love her, Rick, or I thought I did, but how do you come back from something like this? You don't, I said simply. Trust me, I've been thinking about it all night. Some things can't be fixed. So what do we do? I leaned against the counter, studying this kid who'd become more like a son to me than a son-in-law. We make sure we're not the only ones suffering. That's how the Betrayed Husbands Club was born. Population 2. Over the next week, Evan and I became unlikely partners in investigation. He had the tech skills, I had the local knowledge and connections. We started small, following Amanda's routine, documenting her meetings with Dr. Grant, gathering evidence. It didn't take long to find dirt. Amanda had opened a secret checking account 3 months ago. She'd been funneling money from our joint savings, money I'd earned working 70-hour weeks to pay for dinners, hotels, and gifts for her boyfriend. Look at this, Evan said, showing me his laptop screen. We were sitting in my store after hours, surrounded by paint cans and fertilizer bags, playing amateur detective. Krista's been posting on social media about the vacation. Look at the background of this photo. I squinted at the screen. Krista was posing in a bikini, but behind her, slightly out of focus, was a shirtless guy who definitely wasn't Evan. Can you enhance it? This isn't CSI, Rick, but I can clean it up a little. His fingers flew over the keyboard. There, that's the guy she was with. The face that emerged from the pixels was young, probably college-aged, with the kind of cocky smile that made me want to punch something. Do we know who he is? Working on it. But Rick, there's something else. I've been monitoring Krista's credit card statements. She gave me access when we got married for budgeting purposes. She spent $800 at a jewelry store the day before the trip. What kind of jewelry? A men's watch. Expensive one. I felt that familiar rage building in my chest. She bought him a gift. Gets worse. The receipt shows she had it engraved. With what? To my real man. I had to walk away from the computer, the audacity of it, spending money that ultimately came from me to buy gifts for the guy she was cheating with, while insulting her husband in the process. There's more, Evan said quietly. I found text messages between her and Amanda. They've been planning this for weeks. Amanda told her it was time to have some real fun and that you and I would never find out. Show me. He pulled up a screenshot of a text conversation. Amanda, Felix is taking me to that new resort this weekend. You should come. Bring that college boy you've been flirting with. Krista, what about Dad's birthday? Amanda, what about it? When's the last time he did anything exciting? Besides, we deserve this. Krista, true, Evan's been so boring lately. All he does is work and play video games. Amanda, exactly. We're still young and attractive. Why waste it on men who don't appreciate us? I stared at the screen until the words blurred. 20 years of marriage reduced to boring and unappreciative. I'm sorry, Rick, Evan said. I know this is hard to read. No, it's perfect. This is exactly what we need. What do you mean? I looked around my store, at the tools and supplies that represented decades of honest work, at the business I'd built with my own hands while Amanda spent my money on her boyfriend. I mean, it's time they learned what real consequences look like. The next morning, I put my plan into motion. First stop, Tanya Morrison, Amanda's best friend and the biggest gossip in our neighborhood. Tanya worked at the local coffee shop and knew everyone's business before they did. Rick, I heard about Amanda's situation. I'm so sorry. Thanks, Tanya. It's been rough. I ordered my usual black coffee and a blueberry muffin. I'm trying to understand how it got so bad without me noticing. Oh, honey, we all saw the signs. The way she was always talking about that doctor spending so much money on new clothes and spa treatments. I kept thinking she was planning something special for you, but what? Tanya leaned across the counter conspiratorially. She kept asking us girls about dating apps and whether we thought she was still attractive enough to play the field. I thought it was just midlife crisis talk, you know? Dating apps? Oh, yes. She showed us her profile pictures, professional photos and everything. Said she was doing research for a friend. I filed that information away. Well, I appreciate your honesty, Tanya. It helps to know I wasn't completely blind. Of course, honey. And if you need anything, someone to talk to, a home-cooked meal, you just let me know. I smiled and left a generous tip. Tanya would have this conversation repeated to half the neighborhood by lunchtime. The gossip mill was now officially spinning. Next stop, Dr. Grant's office. The Riverside Dermatology Clinic was everything you'd expect from a place that catered to wealthy suburbanites worried about wrinkles, marble floors, abstract art, and a receptionist who looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. I'd like to schedule a follow-up appointment with Dr. Grant, I told her. Of course, mister. Rick Dwyer, he treated a mole for me last year. She clicked through her computer. I can fit you in next Tuesday at 2. Perfect. As I turned to leave, Dr. Grant himself emerged from a back room, his white coat pristine and his silver hair perfectly styled. He was talking to a young nurse, his hand resting on her lower back in a way that seemed overly familiar. He looked up and saw me. For just a moment, his confident smile faltered. Rick, good to see you. How's Amanda? Oh, she's been better. In fact, she's been telling me all about your treatments. His face went pale. Treatments? Oh yes, very thorough from what I understand. You really go above and beyond for your patients. Yes, well, we pride ourselves on comprehensive care. I bet you do. I smiled pleasantly. See you Tuesday, Doc. I left him standing there, sweat beading on his forehead despite the air conditioning. That afternoon, Evan called with an update. I found him, the guy Krista was with. And his name is Tyler Morrison. He's 23, works as a lifeguard at the resort, and here's the kicker. He's Tanya's nephew. I had to laugh. Tanya's nephew? The same Tanya who's Amanda's best friend? The very same. And get this, according to his social media, he's been bragging about his sugar mama who bought him an expensive watch. Does he mention Krista by name? Better. He posted a photo of the watch with the engraving visible, and there are pictures of them together at the resort. Send me everything. Already done. But Rick, there's something else. I did some digging into Dr. Grant's finances. Don't ask how. And he's not as wealthy as he pretends to be. That Porsche? Leased. The expensive dinners with Amanda? He's been using the clinic's petty cash account to pay for them. That's embezzlement. Technically, yes, small scale, but still illegal. I felt the pieces of my plan clicking into place. Evan, my boy, I think it's time we stop playing defense. What do you have in mind? A little public education, starting with tomorrow night's block party. Our neighborhood held monthly block parties during the summer potluck dinners, where everyone gathered to eat casseroles and gossip about property values. Amanda loved them because they gave her a chance to show off and play the perfect suburban wife. This month's party was being hosted by the Hendersons, 3 houses down from mine. I'd never been much for these gatherings, but tomorrow night, I was going to be the life of the party. I spent the evening preparing, printed photos, organized documents, and practiced my presentation. If Amanda and Krista wanted to air our dirty laundry in public, I was happy to oblige. My phone rang around 10, Amanda's name on the caller ID. What do you want? Rick, we need to talk. About the medical bills, about the house, about everything. There's nothing to discuss. You made your choices. It doesn't have to be like this. We can work through it. Go to counseling, start over. Start over? I almost laughed. Amanda, you spent 6 months planning to humiliate me. You encouraged our daughter to cheat on her husband. You stole money from our savings to buy gifts for your boyfriend. What exactly would we be starting over from? I know I made mistakes. Mistakes are forgetting to pick up milk or leaving the iron on. What you did was calculated betrayal. Fine, be stubborn, but you can't keep me out of my own house forever. Watch me. I hung up and went back to my preparations. Tomorrow night was going to be very educational for everyone involved. The Hendersons' backyard was packed with the usual suspects: 30-something couples with their perfectly groomed children, retirees with nothing better to do than complain about the noise ordinance, and middle-aged divorcees looking for their next mistake. I arrived fashionably late, carrying a casserole dish and wearing my best wounded husband expression. The conversations died down as I walked through the crowd. News of Amanda's infidelity had clearly made the rounds. "Rick!" Carol Henderson rushed over, her face a mask of sympathy. "We're so glad you came. How are you holding up?" "One day at a time, Carol. Thanks for asking. If there's anything we can do." "Actually, there is something." I looked around the gathering, noting who was present. Perfect audience. "I was hoping to clear the air about some rumors that have been going around." "Of course, dear. Whatever you need." I set down my casserole and cleared my throat. The crowd gradually quieted, sensing drama in the air. "I want to thank everyone for the support you've shown me this week. I know there's been a lot of talk about Amanda and me, and I thought it was important to set the record straight." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Someone's phone appeared, probably to record whatever was about to happen. "As many of you know, Amanda and I are separating. What you might not know is that she's been having an affair with Dr. Felix Grant from the dermatology clinic." More murmurs, louder this time. I saw Tanya in the crowd, her eyes wide with excitement at being at the center of such delicious gossip. Now, I'm not here to bash anyone. We're all adults, and people make choices. But I did want to address some of the stories that have been circulating. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery Evan had prepared. For instance, there's been some confusion about a recent vacation Amanda took with our daughter, Krista. Some people have suggested it was a mother-daughter bonding trip. I held up my phone, showing the photo of Krista with Tyler in the background. As you can see, there was quite a bit of bonding going on. Unfortunately, not the kind that builds healthy family relationships. The crowd was dead silent now. Everyone's straining to see the photo. And speaking of bonding, I thought you might be interested to know that both Amanda and Krista contracted chlamydia during their little getaway. They're both being treated, of course, but it does raise some interesting questions about judgment and responsibility. The silence broke into a wave of gasps and whispered conversations. I saw several people pulling out their phones to text this bombshell to friends who weren't present. Now, I don't want anyone to think poorly of Dr. Grant. I'm sure he's a fine physician. Though I do wonder how the hospital board might feel about his use of clinic funds to pay for romantic dinners. That was a bluff. I had no proof he was using clinic money for personal expenses. But judging by the way Tanya's eyes lit up, the seed was planted. Anyway, I just wanted everyone to hear the truth from me, rather than through the rumor mill. Amanda and I are getting divorced, Krista and Evan are working through their issues, and life goes on. I picked up my casserole dish. "Oh, and if anyone sees Dr. Grant's red Porsche around the neighborhood, you might want to let him know someone's been vandalizing expensive cars lately. Terrible shame when people don't respect other people's property." With that, I walked away, leaving behind a crowd of stunned neighbors and enough gossip to fuel the next 6 months of block parties. My phone started ringing before I made it home. First Evan, then Amanda, then numbers I didn't recognize, probably reporters, since someone had inevitably posted video of my little speech online. I ignored them all and went to bed early. Tomorrow was going to be a busy day. Dr. Grant's office called at 8 a.m. "Mr. Dwyer, this is Sarah from Dr. Grant's office. I'm afraid we need to cancel your appointment today." "Oh, is the doctor ill?" "He's unavailable. We can reschedule for next month if you'd like." "That's fine. Tell the good doctor I hope he feels better soon." Evan arrived at the store an hour later, grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. "Have you seen the news?" "What news?" He showed me his phone. The local newspaper's website had a headline that made me smile. "Local doctor under investigation for financial irregularities." How did they find out so fast? Anonymous tip, apparently. Someone called in this morning with allegations of misuse of clinic funds. The hospital is conducting an internal audit. Interesting timing. Very interesting. Oh, and Krista called me this morning. Apparently Tanya confronted her about Tyler being her nephew. The whole Morrison family is in an uproar. Good. What about Amanda? Radio silence, but I drove by her hotel this morning. Dr. Grant's Porsche was in the parking lot. Still together then? For now. But Rick, there's something else. I've been thinking about what you said yesterday about consequences. I want to do something about Krista. What did you have in mind? She's supposed to meet her college friends for drinks tonight at that new wine bar downtown. Big celebration for someone's promotion. And I thought it might be a good time for those friends to learn about her vacation activities, especially since half of them are married. I studied Evan's face. The quiet, accommodating kid was gone, replaced by someone harder, more determined. What do you need from me? Just moral support, and maybe some of those photos you used last night. That evening, I closed the store early and met Evan downtown. The wine bar was exactly what you'd expect. Exposed brick walls, overpriced cocktails, and young professionals trying to convince themselves they were living their best lives. Krista was holding court at a corner table, surrounded by 4 other women. She was animated, gesturing wildly as she told some story that had her audience laughing. There she is, Evan said quietly. The blonde next to her is Sarah Chen. She just got promoted to marketing director at her firm. The brunette across from her is Jessica Torres. She's getting married next month. Perfect audience for a lesson in marital fidelity. We took a table across the room and waited. After about 20 minutes, Krista got up to use the restroom. Evan stood up. Wish me luck. He walked over to Krista's table and introduced himself to her friends. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could see their faces change as he talked. Confusion, then shock, then anger. When Krista returned from the bathroom, she found her friends staring at her with expressions that could have frozen hell. What's wrong? She asked, sliding into her seat. We need to talk, Jessica said coldly. About what? About your vacation, and Tyler, and the fact that you've been lying to everyone about your marriage. Krista's face went white. She looked around the table, then spotted Evan across the room. Her expression shifted from shock to fury. You told them. They deserve to know the truth, Evan said, walking over to join the conversation. Just like I deserve to know the truth. This is none of their business. Really? Sarah stood up, her voice loud enough to attract attention from nearby tables. Because last week you were asking me for advice about divorce lawyers, telling me how Evan was emotionally abusive and controlling. You were planning to ruin his reputation to cover your own A. That's not... And you, Jessica interrupted, pointing an accusatory finger at Krista. You've been texting me for months about how marriage is a trap and how I should have more fun before my wedding, all while you were cheating on your husband. The entire wine bar was staring now. Krista looked around desperately, realizing she was trapped. I can explain. Explain what? Evan's voice was calm but deadly. Explain how you spent $800 of our money to buy a watch for your boyfriend? Explain how you and your mother planned this whole thing to humiliate your family? Explain how you contracted an STD and then came home and slept with me without telling me? That last revelation sent a shockwave through the crowd. Several people pulled out their phones to record the drama. Evan, please. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow, Krista, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly why. He turned and walked away, leaving Krista sitting alone at a table with 4 former friends who looked at her like she was something they'd scraped off their shoes. I followed Evan outside, where he was leaning against a lamppost, shaking. You okay, kid? I think so. That was harder than I expected. The first time always is. But you did good in there. Think it'll make a difference? Look around. The street was buzzing with people who'd come outside to call their friends about the drama they'd just witnessed. By morning, half the city would know about Krista's vacation adventures. Social media is a beautiful thing, I said, especially when you're trying to destroy someone's reputation. My phone buzzed. Text message from Amanda. We need to talk. Now. I showed Evan the message. What are you going to do? Meet with her. It's time for the final act. Amanda was waiting in the parking lot of my store when I arrived the next morning. She looked terrible. Hair unwashed, makeup smeared, wearing the same clothes she'd had on 2 days ago. You fool, she said as I unlocked the front door. Good morning to you too, dear. Don't you dear me? Do you have any idea what you've done? I flipped on the lights and headed for the coffee machine. I've told the truth. Novel concept, I know. You've destroyed our daughter's life. I didn't destroy anything. Krista made her choices just like you made yours. Amanda followed me through the store, her voice rising. She's 22 years old. She made a mistake. A mistake? I turned to face her. Amanda, she planned this. You both did. You encouraged her to cheat on her husband, helped her lie about it, and then tried to cover it up by playing the sufferer. That's not... I have the text messages, Amanda. All of them. The planning, the lies, the jokes about how boring Evan and I are. You want to talk about destroying lives? You destroyed our marriage 6 months ago. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. She slumped into one of the plastic chairs I kept for customers. For a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married 20 years ago. Vulnerable, uncertain, human. Felix left, she said quietly. What? He's gone. Packed up his office yesterday and disappeared. The hospital fired him, and his ex-wife is threatening to sue for the alimony he owes her. He took what money he had and ran. I poured myself coffee and didn't offer her any. And I'm alone, Rick. I have nowhere to go, no money, and everyone in town thinks I'm a hooker. You are a hooker, Amanda. An expensive one, apparently. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I know you're angry. Angry! I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Angry doesn't begin to cover it. You stole from me, lied to me, humiliated me, and corrupted our daughter. And now you want sympathy because your boyfriend turned out to be a coward? I want to come home. No. Rick, please, we can work through this. Go to counseling, start over. There is no starting over. There's no working through this. There's just consequences. What do you want from me? I studied her face, looking for any sign of genuine remorse. All I saw was self-pity and desperation. I want you to sign divorce papers without fighting me. I want you to admit publicly that you cheated and stole money. And I want you to stay away from me and my business. And if I don't, then I release the rest of the evidence I've gathered. The photos, the financial records, the text messages, all of it. And I make sure your next job interview includes a Google search that will curl your hair. She stared at me for a long moment, then started crying. Not the manipulative tears she'd used during our marriage, but real, ugly sobs of defeat. I never meant for it to go this far. Yes, you did. You just never meant to get caught. My phone rang. Evan. Rick, you need to see the news. What now? Dr. Grant. He's been arrested. I put the call on speaker so Amanda could hear. Arrested for what? Embezzlement, insurance fraud, and tax evasion. Apparently, your little speech at the block party prompted someone to take a closer look at his finances. The FBI raided his house this morning. Amanda's face went white. The FBI? Oh, it gets better, Evan continued. They found evidence that he's been running this scam for years. Fake treatments, inflated bills, kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies. Your boyfriend was a full-scale criminal, Amanda. She looked at me with something approaching panic. Did you know? I suspected he was skimming money from the clinic. I had no idea it was that extensive. This is a disaster. If they investigate his personal life, they'll find the money he spent on me. I could be charged as an accessory. Only if you knowingly participated in his crimes, I said calmly. Did you? No, I thought he was just wealthy. Then you have nothing to worry about. But she did have something to worry about, and we both knew it. The FBI would trace every dollar Grant had spent, and Amanda's name would be all over his credit card statements and bank records. I need a lawyer, she said. Yes, you do. Rick, please. I know I don't deserve your help, but you're right. You don't deserve it. She sat in silence for several minutes, processing the reality of her situation. Finally, she looked up at me. What happens now? Now you face the consequences of your choices, just like the rest of us. My phone buzzed with a text from Tanya. Did you hear about Dr. Grant? OMG, call me. Then another from Carol Henderson. Rick, we're all thinking of you. So glad you got away from that mess. And another from a number I didn't recognize. Saw the news about your wife's boyfriend. You dodged a bullet, buddy. Amanda watched me read the messages, her face growing paler with each one. They're all talking about me, aren't they? What did you expect? You made yourself the center of attention. This is what attention looks like. She stood up slowly like an old woman. I'll sign the papers. Good. And I'll stay away from the store. Also good. But Rick, I am sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I'm genuinely sorry for what I did to you. I looked at her for a long moment. Part of me, a very small part, wanted to comfort her, to tell her everything would be okay. But that part was overwhelmed by 20 years of accumulated resentments and the fresh wounds of her betrayal. "I believe you," I said finally. "But sorry doesn't undo the damage. Sorry doesn't give me back the money you stole or the reputation you damaged. Sorry doesn't fix what you did to our daughter's marriage." She nodded and walked toward the door. At the threshold, she turned back. "For what it's worth, you're not boring, Rick. You're a good man. I forgot how to appreciate good." After she left, I sat alone in my store, surrounded by the tools and supplies that represented everything I'd built with honest work. My phone kept buzzing with messages from friends, neighbors, and customers offering support and sharing gossip about the Grant investigation. Evan arrived an hour later with coffee and donuts from the good bakery across town. "Peace offering," he said. "Your coffee really is terrible." "Thanks, kid. Any word from Krista?" "She's staying with her friend Sarah for now. Apparently, she's considering moving back in with her parents. But since Amanda's homeless too, that's complicated." "What about you? How are you holding up?" "Better than I expected. Filing the divorce papers this afternoon. My lawyer says it should be straightforward, especially with all the evidence we've gathered." "Good for you." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking better coffee and watching the morning news coverage of Grant's arrest. The reporter mentioned that the investigation was ongoing and that authorities were looking into his personal relationships and expenditures. "Think Amanda will get charged?" Evan asked. "Depends on what they find. If she just received gifts and dinners, probably not. If she was involved in any of the fraud schemes, then maybe—" "Would you feel bad if she did?" I considered the question seriously. A year ago, I would have, but now, she made her choices. If those choices put her in legal jeopardy, that's on her. You've changed, Rick. Since all this started, I mean. "How so?" "You're harder, more decisive. Before, you always seemed to be apologizing for taking up space. Now you take up exactly as much space as you deserve. Maybe that's what happens when you stop caring what other people think." "Is that what happened? You stopped caring?" "I stopped caring about the wrong people's opinions. I still care what you think, what my real friends think, what my customers think. But Amanda, Krista, the people who were willing to betray me for their own selfish reasons, their opinions became worthless the moment they chose to lie to me." My phone rang. Unknown number. Dwyer's Hardware. "Mr. Dwyer, this is Agent Sarah Martinez with the FBI. I'd like to schedule a time to speak with you about Dr. Felix Grant." Evan's eyes widened. I put the call on speaker. "What would you like to know, Agent Martinez?" "We understand that Dr. Grant was involved in a personal relationship with your wife. We're trying to trace some financial irregularities and would appreciate any information you might have. I'd be happy to help. When would you like to meet?" "Would this afternoon work, say 2 o'clock? "I'll be here." After I hung up, Evan whistled low. "This is really happening?" "Looks like it." "Are you going to tell them everything?" "I'm going to tell them the truth. What they do with it is up to them." The rest of the morning passed quickly. Customers came and went, many offering condolences and support. Word had spread about Amanda's situation, and the general consensus seemed to be that I was better off without her. At 2 o'clock sharp, Agent Martinez arrived with a partner, Agent Johnson. They were exactly what you'd expect FBI agents to look like: professional, serious, and intimidating in a quiet way. "Thank you for meeting with us, Mr. Dwyer. We understand this is a difficult time." "I'm managing. How can I help?" "We're investigating Dr. Grant's financial activities over the past 2 years. We have evidence that he spent significant amounts of money on personal expenses, including gifts and entertainment for various individuals." Agent Johnson pulled out a tablet and showed me a bank statement. "Do you recognize any of these transactions?" I studied the screen. Restaurants I knew Amanda had mentioned, jewelry stores, hotels, spa treatments. The amounts were staggering, thousands of dollars over just a few months. "These look like expenses related to his relationship with my wife. Can you provide any documentation of that relationship?" "I can do better than that." I pulled out the file Evan and I had compiled: photos, text messages, credit card statements, and bank records. "This is everything we gathered during our own investigation." Agent Martinez flipped through the documents, her eyebrows rising. "This is very thorough. You documented all of this yourself?" "My son-in-law helped. We wanted to understand the extent of the affair before proceeding with divorce proceedings." "Did your wife ever mention Dr. Grant's financial situation?" whether he seemed to have more money than his practice would support. She mentioned that he was very generous, always picking up expensive dinner tabs and buying costly gifts. She said he told her money was no object because his practice was so successful. Did she ever question where the money was coming from? I thought about that carefully. If she did, she never mentioned it to me. But then again, she wasn't sharing much with me during that period. Agent Johnson made notes on his tablet. Mr. Dwyer, based on these documents, it appears your wife received significant gifts and benefits from Dr. Grant. Do you believe she was aware that the money might have been obtained illegally? I honestly don't know. Amanda isn't particularly sophisticated about financial matters. If Grant told her he was wealthy, she probably believed him without questioning it. Would you be willing to testify about what you've told us today? If necessary, yes. After the agents left, I sat alone in my store and tried to process what had just happened. In the span of a week, I'd gone from betrayed husband to key witness in a federal investigation. My phone buzzed. Text from Amanda. The FBI wants to talk to me. I'm scared. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Tell the truth. It's worked out well for me. She didn't reply. That evening, Evan and I met for dinner at a restaurant across town, away from the neighborhood gossip mill. So what happens now? He asked, over beer and burgers. Now we move on with our lives. You get divorced, I get divorced, and we both try to be smarter about who we trust. Think we will be? Smarter, I mean? I hope so. But even if we're not, at least we'll know we're capable of fighting back when someone tries to screw us over. Is that what this was all about? Fighting back? I considered the question while I ate. Partly. But it was also about justice. Amanda and Krista thought they could lie and cheat and steal without consequences because they assumed I'd be too nice, too accommodating, too weak to do anything about it. And they were wrong. Very wrong. We finished dinner and walked outside into the warm evening air. The city felt different somehow. Less oppressive, more full of possibilities. Rick? Yeah? Thanks. For everything. I don't think I could have gotten through this alone. You wouldn't have had to. That's what family is for. Even though Krista and I are getting divorced, especially because of that, you're still my son-in-law in every way that matters. We parted ways in the parking lot, and I drove home to my empty house. But for the first time in months, the silence didn't feel lonely. It felt peaceful. 3 weeks later, I was restocking paint cans when Tanya burst through my store's front door like a woman on a mission. Rick, have you heard? Heard what, Tanya? Amanda got arrested. I nearly dropped the gallon of primer I was holding. What? This morning, FBI agents showed up at the hotel where she's been staying and took her away in handcuffs. My cousin works at the front desk. She saw the whole thing. I set down the paint can carefully. What are the charges? Money laundering and conspiracy? Apparently, she wasn't just receiving gifts from Dr. Grant. She was helping him hide money. That didn't sound right. Amanda was many things, but criminal mastermind wasn't one of them. Are you sure about this, Tanya? Positive. It's all over social media. Someone filmed the arrest and posted it on Facebook. She showed me her phone. Sure enough, there was Amanda in handcuffs, being led to an FBI vehicle while a crowd of hotel guests watched and recorded. I need to make some calls, I said. After Tanya left, I called Evan. Did you hear about Amanda? Just saw it on the news. What do you think happened? I don't know, but something doesn't add up. Amanda's not smart enough to be a money launderer. Maybe she's smarter than we thought. Or maybe she's being set up for something she didn't do. Would that bother you? If she was innocent of this particular crime? I thought about it. Yeah, it would. I want her to face consequences for what she actually did, not for something she didn't do. So, what do? I'm going to call Agent Martinez. The FBI agent answered on the second ring. Agent Martinez, this is Rick Dwyer. I saw the news about my wife's arrest. Can you tell me what happened? I can't discuss the details of an ongoing investigation, Mr. Dwyer, but I can tell you that we've uncovered evidence of your wife's direct involvement in Dr. Grant's money laundering operation. What kind of evidence? Bank accounts in her name, financial transactions she initiated, and recorded conversations where she discusses hiding assets. That still didn't sound like Amanda. She barely balanced her own checkbook. Agent Martinez, I know I'm probably the last person who should be defending Amanda, but this doesn't sound like her. She's not sophisticated enough to run a money laundering operation. People can surprise you, Mr. Dwyer. even people you think you know well. After I hung up, I sat in my store and tried to make sense of what I'd learned. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. Dwyer's Hardware. Rick, it's Amanda. Amanda? Where are you calling from? County jail. They gave me one phone call, and I didn't know who else to contact. Her voice was small, defeated. Nothing like the confident woman who'd been cheating on me just a month ago. What do you need? I need you to know I didn't do what they're saying. Yes, I cheated on you. Yes, I took money from our account. But I never helped Felix launder money. I don't even know what money laundering is. Then how do they have evidence against you? I think Felix set me up. He opened bank accounts using my information, forged my signature on documents. When he realized he was going to get caught, he made it look like I was his partner instead of just his girlfriend. That sounded more plausible. Grant was smart enough and desperate enough to throw Amanda under the bus to save himself. Have you told this to your lawyer? I can't afford a lawyer, Rick. All our money is frozen because they think it's connected to the fraud. I closed my eyes and tried to think clearly. Amanda had betrayed me in the worst possible way. She'd stolen from me, lied to me, and humiliated me publicly. I had every reason to let her rot in jail. But if she was innocent of these particular charges, then letting her take the fall would make me as bad as she was. I'll call someone, I said finally. Rick, don't thank me yet. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. I hung up and called the best criminal defense attorney in the city, Marcus Webb. We'd gone to high school together, and he owed me a favor from when I'd helped him renovate his office for free. Marcus, it's Rick Dwyer. I need a favor. 2 hours later, Marcus was sitting in my store, reviewing the FBI evidence against Amanda. This is interesting, he said, flipping through documents. Your wife's signatures on these bank documents don't match her signature on your divorce papers. Meaning someone forged them. Probably Grant, before he disappeared. So she's innocent? Of the money laundering charges, probably yes. Of being an idiot who got involved with a criminal, definitely guilty. Can you get her out? I can try. But, Rick, why are you doing this? From what I've heard, she put you through hell. Because if I let an innocent person go to prison just because I'm angry at them, then I'm no better than they are. Marcus nodded approvingly. That's very noble of you. Also expensive. My retainer is $15,000. I wrote the check without hesitation. 3 days later, Amanda was released on bail pending further investigation. The FBI had discovered that Grant had indeed forged her signature on multiple documents and used her identity to open accounts without her knowledge. She came to my store the day after her release. I wanted to thank you, she said quietly. Don't. Rick, I know you didn't have to help me. You're right. I didn't. And I wouldn't have if I thought you were actually guilty. But still, Amanda, let's be clear about something. I helped you because it was the right thing to do, not because I've forgiven you. You still cheated on me, stole from me, and destroyed our marriage. The fact that your boyfriend was a bigger criminal than we realized doesn't change any of that. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I understand. Good. Now, what's your plan? I don't know. I can't afford the hotel anymore. I can't get a job because everyone in town knows about the affair and the arrest, and I have nowhere to go. What about your sister in Phoenix? She won't return my calls. I studied Amanda's face. She looked older than her 39 years, worn down by stress and public humiliation. Part of me felt sorry for her. A larger part reminded me that she'd brought this on herself. There's a women's shelter downtown, I said finally. They help people get back on their feet. A shelter? It's temporary housing while you figure out your next move. They also have job placement services. Rick, I can't. You can, and you will, because it's either that or sleep in your car. She left without another word. That afternoon, Evan stopped by with news about Krista. She's moving to California, he said. Got a job offer from a company in San Diego. Running away? Can you blame her? Everyone in town knows about Tyler and the STD. She can't go anywhere without people staring and whispering. What about the divorce? She's not contesting it, wants it finalized as quickly as possible so she can start over with a clean slate. And how do you feel about that? Evan was quiet for a moment. Relieved, mostly. I love the person I thought she was, but that person never really existed. The real Krista is selfish and dishonest, and I'm better off without her. That's a mature way to look at it. I learned from the best. Over the next few weeks, life slowly returned to something approaching normal. The FBI investigation concluded that Amanda had been a sufferer of identity theft rather than a co-conspirator. Grant, meanwhile, remained a fugitive, having fled the country with what money he could access before his accounts were frozen. Amanda found a job at a call center in the next town over and moved into a studio apartment near the women's shelter. We had no contact except through our lawyers, who were finalizing our divorce. Krista left for California without saying goodbye to me. Evan heard from her once, a brief email saying she'd arrived safely and started her new job. "Do you miss her?" I asked him one evening as we shared a beer after closing the store. "Sometimes, but not the real her. I miss the version of her I created in my head. The loyal, loving wife who never actually existed." "That's the hardest part of betrayal," I said. "Realizing that the person you loved was largely a fiction. Is that how you feel about Amanda?" "Partly, but I think the woman I married was real. At least in the beginning. She just changed over time, became someone I didn't recognize." "Do you think people can change back? Become better?" "I don't know, but I think they can choose to be better going forward." "Have you chosen to be better?" I considered the question. Over the past 2 months, I'd exposed my wife's affair, humiliated my daughter publicly, helped destroy a man's career, and contributed to multiple divorces and arrests. "I've chosen to be stronger," I said finally. "Whether that's better or not, I guess time will tell." 6 months later, I was closing the store on a Friday evening when I saw Amanda's car pull into the parking lot. I hadn't seen her since the day she'd asked about the women's shelter. She looked different, thinner, more tired, but also somehow more substantial, like she'd been forced to develop actual character. "Hi, Rick. Amanda, what can I do for you?" "I wanted to give you this." She handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $3,000. "What's this for?" "It's partial repayment for the money I took from our savings account. I know it's not everything, but it's what I can afford right now." I studied the check. It was drawn on an account I didn't recognize, with Amanda's new address printed in the corner. "You didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did. I stole from you, Rick. The least I can do is pay you back." "How's the job?" "Terrible. But it pays the bills, and I'm good at it. Turns out 20 years of lying to people prepared me well for sales." Despite everything, I almost smiled at that. "And how are you doing? Really?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I'm learning to live with the consequences of my choices. Some days are harder than others." "Any regrets?" "Every day. But not just about getting caught, about what I did in the first place. I destroyed a 20-year marriage for a 6-month fling with a criminal. I corrupted our daughter and ruined her marriage. I threw away everything good in my life for something that was never real." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to hear it. And because I want you to know that the woman who cheated on you isn't who I want to be anymore." I looked at her carefully. The Amanda I'd married had been charming but shallow, attractive but vain, fun but ultimately selfish. This woman seemed different, sadder, but more genuine. "What happened to change your mind?" "Rock bottom, I guess. When I was sitting in that jail cell, facing the possibility of 20 years in prison for something I didn't do, I had to confront who I'd become, and I didn't like what I saw. So what now? Now I try to rebuild my life into something I can be proud of. I'm taking night classes to get my real estate license. I'm volunteering at the shelter that helped me, and I'm trying to figure out how to be a person worth knowing." "That's good. I'm glad." "Are you?" "Glad, I mean." I thought about it. "Yeah, I think I am. I never wanted you to be miserable, Amanda. I just wanted you to face the consequences of what you did. Mission accomplished." We stood in awkward silence for a moment. Then Amanda spoke again. "Rick, I know this doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know. You were a good husband. You didn't deserve what I did to you. I know. And you're a good man. Don't let what I did make you bitter." After she left, I sat in my empty store and thought about the past year. I'd lost a wife, a daughter, and most of my illusions about the people I'd trusted most. But I'd gained something too. Self-respect, genuine friends, and the knowledge that I could fight back when necessary. My phone rang. Evan. "Hey, Rick, want to grab dinner? There's something I want to tell you." "Good news or bad news?" "Good news, I think. I met someone." "Yeah? Tell me about her." "Her name is Sarah. She's a teacher, divorced, has 2 kids. We met at a coffee shop last week. And And she's nothing like Krista. She's honest, kind, and she thinks my dad jokes are funny. Those are good qualities in a woman. I'm nervous about it, though. What if I'm a terrible judge of character? What if I'm making the same mistake again? Then you'll deal with it. But Evan, you can't live your life afraid of being hurt again. The alternative is being alone forever, and that's not living. That's just existing. Is that what you're doing? Just existing? It was a fair question. Since the divorce, I'd focused entirely on work and revenge. I hadn't dated, barely socialized, and spent most evenings alone. Maybe, I admitted, but I'm not ready for anything else yet. When will you be? I don't know, but I'll know when it happens. We met for dinner at a new restaurant downtown. Evan told me about Sarah, about his job, about his plans for the future. He seemed lighter somehow, like he'd finally let go of the anger that had been consuming him. What about Krista? I asked. Any word from California? She sent me divorce papers to sign, and a short note apologizing for everything. How did that feel? Like closure, I guess. She's not the person I thought she was, but she's not evil either. She's just weak and selfish, but maybe she'll grow out of it. And if she doesn't, then that's not my problem anymore. After dinner, we walked through downtown, past the wine bar where Evan had confronted Krista, past the hotel where Amanda had been arrested, past all the places where our lives had fallen apart and been rebuilt. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd handled things differently? Evan asked. How do you mean? If we'd been more forgiving, more willing to work through it. You mean if we'd been pushovers? Maybe. Or maybe just kinder. I thought about that as we walked. I don't think kindness was an option, Evan. Amanda and Krista weren't looking for forgiveness. They were looking for permission to keep lying. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is force someone to face the truth about themselves. Even if it destroys their life, they destroyed their own lives. We just refused to help them cover it up. Do you really believe that? Most days. On the bad days, I wonder if I went too far. But then I remember how they laughed about us behind our backs, how they planned to humiliate us. And I think we did exactly what we had to do. And the collateral damage? Amanda's arrest? Krista losing her job? Dr. Grant's career? Collateral damage implies they were innocent bystanders. They weren't. They were active participants in their own destruction. We reached my car, and I turned to face Evan. Listen to me, kid. You're young enough to start over, to find someone who deserves you. Don't waste time feeling guilty about holding people accountable for their actions. What about you? Are you going to start over? Eventually, when I'm ready. How will you know when you're ready? When I stop being angry and start being hopeful again. And when will that be? I looked around at the city lights, at the life continuing around us despite all the drama and betrayal and consequences. Maybe sooner than I thought. 3 months later, I was working late at the store when someone knocked on the front door. Through the glass, I could see a woman about my age, professional looking, holding what appeared to be a business card. I opened the door. We're closed, but if it's an emergency, Mr. Dwyer? I'm Jennifer Walsh from the Small Business Association. I was wondering if I could talk to you about a program we're launching. What kind of program? We're creating a mentorship network for small business owners. Based on your reputation in the community and the way you've handled some recent challenges, we'd like you to consider being a mentor. What kind of challenges are you referring to? She smiled. The kind that would have destroyed a weaker person. Instead, you've maintained your business, kept your integrity, and shown remarkable resilience in the face of personal difficulties. You mean my divorce? Among other things. Mr. Dwyer, you've become something of a local legend, the man who fought back and won. I'm not sure I won anything. You won your self-respect. In my experience, that's the most important victory of all. I invited her in and made coffee while she explained the program. It was designed to help struggling business owners navigate both professional and personal crises. Why me? I asked. Because you've been through hell and came out stronger, and because everyone I've talked to says you're fundamentally decent, even when you're being ruthless. I'm not sure those qualities are compatible. I think they're exactly what makes you perfect for this job. After she left, I sat in my store and thought about her offer. For the first time in months, I felt something other than anger or satisfaction. I felt useful. My phone buzzed, text message from Evan. Sarah said yes. Yes to what? I texted back. I asked her to move in with me. We're taking the next step. I smiled and typed back, "Congratulations. When do I get to meet her? How about Sunday dinner? She's cooking. I'll be there." For the first time since this whole mess started, I was looking forward to something. That Sunday, I drove to Evan's apartment with a bottle of wine and a small gift for Sarah, a potted plant from the garden center, something that would grow and flourish with proper care. Sarah turned out to be exactly what Evan had described: warm, funny, genuine. Her kids, 8 and 10, were polite but curious about this new adult in their lives. "So you're the famous Rick," Sarah said as we sat down to dinner. "Famous? Evans told me all about you, how you helped him through his divorce, taught him to stand up for himself. I think we helped each other. That's what he said you'd say." Dinner was comfortable in a way I hadn't experienced in years. Real conversation, genuine laughter, the feeling of being part of a family again. After the kids went to bed, the three of us sat on Evan's balcony drinking wine and talking about the future. "I have some news," I said. "I've been offered a position with the Small Business Association, mentoring other business owners through difficult times." "That's perfect for you," Sarah said. "Are you going to take it?" "I think so. It feels like the right time to start helping people build things up instead of tearing them down." "Does this mean you're ready to start dating again?" Evan asked with a grin. "Maybe, we'll see." "Because Sarah has a friend—" "Evan," Sarah interrupted, laughing. "Let the man breathe." "Actually," I said, "I might be interested in hearing about this friend." They looked at each other in surprise. "Really?" Sarah asked. "Really. But let's take it slow. I'm still learning how to trust people again." "That's fair," Sarah said. "Her name is Lisa. She's a librarian, recently divorced, loves old movies and bad jokes. Sounds promising." As I drove home that night, I realized that for the first time in over a year, I was thinking about the future instead of dwelling on the past. The anger that had sustained me through the worst of the betrayal and revenge was finally fading, replaced by something that felt like hope. My phone rang. Amanda's number. I hesitated, then answered. "Hello, Amanda." "Rick, I'm sorry to bother you, but I wanted you to know I got my real estate license." "Congratulations. And I wanted to ask, would you be willing to be a reference for me? I know it's a lot to ask, but what would you want me to say?" "The truth, that I made terrible mistakes, but that I'm trying to be better." I thought about it. "I can do that. Thank you. That means more than you know." "Amanda?" "Yes. Good luck. I mean that. I know you do. And Rick, I hope you find someone who deserves you." After we hung up, I sat in my driveway for a long time, thinking about forgiveness and second chances and the difference between justice and revenge. I'd spent the better part of a year making sure that everyone who'd betrayed me faced consequences for their actions. Amanda had lost her marriage, her reputation, and her financial security. Krista had lost her husband, her social circle, and her comfortable life. Dr. Grant had lost everything and become a fugitive. The question was, had it been worth it? I thought about the alternative, staying silent, accepting the betrayal, trying to rebuild my marriage on a foundation of lies. That path would have preserved the illusion of family unity while destroying my self-respect. No, I'd made the right choice. Not the easy choice, not the kind choice, but the right choice. And now, finally, I was ready to make a different kind of choice. The choice to build something new instead of tearing down something old. I got out of my car and walked into my house. Tomorrow, I would call Jennifer Walsh and accept the mentorship position. Next week, I would meet Sarah's friend Lisa. Next month, I would start a new chapter of my life. But tonight, I would sit in my living room and enjoy the silence. Not the lonely silence of abandonment, but the peaceful silence of a man who had fought his battles and won his wars and was finally ready to lay down his weapons. For the first time in 20 years, I was exactly where I was supposed to be.